Hey everybody, how you doing? Good morning to you. Exciting Monday night football game. The Kansas City Chiefs prevail, but look at it this way. We were allowing ourselves to rely on Phil Simms and the Los Angeles Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers defense to save us and assure that the Oakland Raiders would emerge as the leaders in the AFC West. Look, I'll tell you that the Chargers made it exciting, but Rivers, at the end of the day, threw 4 interceptions by his own admission. They were from poor throws. Quite different from what Jameis Winston went through the day before when he threw 4 interceptions. 2 of those interceptions were off tips. And the one that was returned for pick 6, he basically ran around and threw a Tampa Bay offense that seemed like it was reluctant to touch him. Not the quarterback excluded. The quarterback's not supposed to be the one that needs to make the tackles. He literally ran through everybody. But I digress. The Raiders had to rely on the Chargers. The Chargers. And the Chargers almost did it. So the fate of the Raiders is in the Raiders' hands. And so as I look at the upcoming schedule, or the remainder of the schedule for the Silver and Black, there is a path the Raiders could take such that if they were to win out, they wouldn't necessarily have to rely on anyone else. They've got some interesting games coming up, the Raiders do. Most notably, coming up on the schedule, as you know, is the rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs. But right now, the Raiders are going to New York to face a seemingly suddenly resurgent Jets team. And the question is, have the Raiders caught the Jets at the wrong time when they're surging, when they're playing better football, when Sam Darnold looks like he's finally found the game plan that loves what he can do? Note that I said that. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how this plays out, because I, for one, believe that if the Raiders continue to make personnel moves like they have, almost a pointless addition of players by need. Burfict goes out, you replace him. Other linebackers go out, you replace another linebacker that has Bengal ties, that knows the defense. That's what you have to do in today's NFL, because there's so many guys getting injured so often. And the Raiders under Mike Mayock as general manager have done a virtuoso job of picking the right players for the right situations at the right time. Right now, as I look at the Raiders' schedule upcoming, they have, as I mentioned, the New York Jets. And then on the 1st, they have Kansas City. And then Sunday, December 8th, Tennessee comes to the Coliseum for the last game of what has been a really interesting season. So if the Raiders win against the Jets, that would put the Raiders at 7-4. And let's see something here. I don't think that schedule is not complete. That's not the whole schedule. I'm sorry. That's not the last game. One moment. So let me get the full schedule here. Okay. Yeah, this is the full schedule, because the last game is with Denver. Oakland at Denver. Okay. So let's say that the Raiders would win out. They would go 12-4. That means they would have to get back past the Jets, then the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, then Tennessee back home here, then Jacksonville back home here, and then go to the home of the former San Diego Chargers I can't help but call them the San Diego Chargers. I know they're the LA Chargers, but I can't stand that name. And then win there. And then finally, Oakland would have to face Denver. And the way Denver is going, it is shaping up to be unquestionably a spoiler roll. Spoiler roll. So how do I think this is going to go down the stretch? I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I think could happen. What I want to happen is to see the Raiders run the table. However, realistically, I think the Jets could give the Raiders a problem. I really do. And the Chiefs as well. Tennessee less so. Jacksonville less so. The Chargers, coin flip, Denver, not a problem. So let's take that scenario to start with. The non-win out scenario. So we have, okay, let's say the Raiders go, if they lose to the Jets, that's 6-5. They lose to the Chiefs, that's 6-6. So they're 500 again. They win at Tennessee. They win with Tennessee. They're back to 7-6. They win against Jacksonville. They're 8-6. If they beat the Chargers, and I still think this is a coin flip. If they beat the Chargers, they're 9-6. They lose, they're 8-7. If they're 8-7, they're going to be on the precipice of missing a playoff berth, because Denver, they're going to win. So they would be 8-7 and then 8-8 if they lost to Denver, but then 9-7 if they beat Denver. So as I look at this schedule, the December 22nd game against the Chargers is looming to be the real fulcrum. That's the real game the Raiders are going to have to worry about. That's going to tell everybody where they're going. You're either in the playoffs or not. You're either completely in or mathematically. If they beat the Chargers, the way I think this schedule is going to go, if they beat the Chargers by the 22nd, they're in. If they don't, they're going to have to depend on math to get in. So you've got 2 games on this schedule that are highly important. They've got to beat the Jets. That's paramount. They've got to beat the Jets. Kansas City, we think we can sustain a loss there that may be coming. It'd be nice to beat them, however, all right? Because they clobbered us before. It'd be nice to split that series. But let's call that a wash, all right? In other words, not happening. Tennessee at Oakland, I think that's a game we're going to win. At Oakland versus the Titans. I am concerned about Derrick Henry in that running game, though. But again, the Jets are a must-win. The Raiders must beat the Jets. They absolutely must beat the Jets to start this off. And they must beat the Chargers. So, I mean, those are absolutes. Tennessee, I think they can get by with little effort, as well Jacksonville. And Denver, they'll beat. Okay? So run the table means, hey, look, you're prepared to beat all of those guys. That's what you say. You don't say, well, I'm going to dial it down for this opponent, and I'm going to dial it up for that one. But what I'm saying is that the way the season is playing out, there are some games that, because of where they are at in the schedule and who they are, jump out more than others. The Jets this week, and then on the 22nd, the LA Chargers loom as those games. Going into Arrowhead, and the Raiders need a different strategy than what they did last time, particularly on defense. I have some ideas there. All right. So, in general, overall, I love the way the team moves the ball offensively with a short pass and the continued increased use of option routes, particularly with the tight ends. I, however, would like to see them use option routes with the running backs and more creative running plays than I've seen. For some particular reason, John has kind of an aversion to the type of counter misdirection plays that I think could really help Josh Jacobs. And John seems to just want to push his guy up the middle a lot. I think he needs to modify that a bit if he wants to get optimum results out of Josh Jacobs and make sure he gets Rookie of the Year. You know, so there's my thought about the Raiders. This is a short live stream. Sunday, my car got broken into, as you may know if you have saw through the videos here. That was resolved. So now I am slowly getting back to normal. All right. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. I'll see you.